Clem, I will love you forever. Julian Harrison let out a low, suppressed growl. Just as he was about to reach the peak, his phone suddenly started vibrating. At a time like this, he naturally ignored it. But then his phone screen lit up. The moment he saw the words on the screen, his movements froze. Clementine Miller heard him pick up the phone. "Hello?" In the silence of the late night, the voice from the phone came through clearly. "Big J, did you know that Serena is—" Julian lowered his voice and interrupted in Arabic. "Keep it down, it's not convenient." The person on the other end also switched to Arabic, but the voice remained loud. "The hospital results are out. Serena has terminal cancer. She only has 1 month left. She wants to be your wife. Can you grant her only wish before she goes?" Julian's expression changed drastically. "What? Wait for me." He hung up the phone and said to Clementine, "Clem, I have an urgent matter and need to go out. Be good and stay home. I'll be back before you wake up." Without waiting for her answer, he got up, washed, changed his clothes, and left without looking back. Another buzz sounded, and Clementine's phone screen lit up. "Serena Sullivan. Clementine Miller, you lose. I told you long ago, Jules is mine." Above that was a message she had sent 3 days ago. "If I got cancer, guess if Jules would dump you to come find me? I bet he definitely would." Clementine's gaze slowly moved from the phone screen to the open bedroom door. Julian didn't know that she had long since learned Arabic. She had understood every word of their conversation just now. After a long time, a pale, miserable smile appeared on her face. "Yeah, I lost." Memories of her past with Julian Harrison surfaced in her mind with that whisper. Julian Harrison was the genius heir to the Harrison family, the wealthiest family in South City, while Clementine Miller was just a hillbilly from the mountains. In the summer when she was 17, she met Julian, who had fallen off a cliff. She had never seen anyone so handsome and exquisite. Clementine brought Julian home and took care of him with great care. When he woke up, he was blind and had amnesia. He lived in her house for over a year, and only after regaining his memory did he contact the Harrison family with her help. Julian confessed his love to her, asked her to return to the Harrison home with him, and promised to be with her forever. Clementine was incredibly moved and followed him to South City without hesitation. Later, she learned that Julian falling off the cliff wasn't an accident. His girlfriend at the time, Serena Sullivan, had taken him hiking in the wild. Julian had fallen off the cliff trying to save her. Serena, however, told no one. She ran home, packed her things immediately, and went abroad. When Julian returned to South City, his eyes were still blind. The Harrison family was preparing to choose another heir. Clementine was worried Julian couldn't handle the blow, but he held her hands tightly, smiling as he said, "Having my Clemmy is enough." For the sake of that sentence, Clementine studied tirelessly in university, even testing medicines on herself. Finally, she cured Julian's eyes. The moment he could see, he hugged her tightly, saying he would never let her down in this life. After regaining his sight, Julian resumed his status as the heir to the Harrison empire. Everyone said that with his noble status, he couldn't possibly be with the hillbilly Clementine Miller, who spoke with an accent. But Julian held Clementine in the palm of his hand, treating her like a treasure. If anyone dared to say anything bad about Clementine in front of him, he would turn hostile on the spot. He used his words and actions to tell everyone, Julian Harrison's love in this life is Clementine Miller. Gradually, everyone believed it. Clementine believed it deeply too, until 3 months ago when Serena Sullivan came back. After adding her on social media, Serena often messaged Clementine saying how good Julian used to be to her. Clementine didn't care, because those things were in the past and Julian was even better to her now. But now, because of one phone call, Julian hesitated not a bit to abandon her and go to Serena Sullivan. He didn't even remember to call the hospital to verify the authenticity of the so-called cancer, even though Clementine had shown Julian the message Serena sent 3 days ago. At that time, he told her that Serena just wanted to get her attention and told her not to mind it. She indeed didn't mind. But what about Julian? Clementine crawled into a corner and curled up tightly, as if waiting for a sentence to be passed. She didn't know how much time had passed when her phone buzzed twice. A strange number sent a video message. Clementine slowly reached out and tapped it open. Julian's familiar voice came through, trembling slightly. Renaa. Serena threw herself into his arms, looking up to kiss him. Jules, I'm going to die. Please don't push me away, okay? Julian closed his eyes and accepted her kiss. The two quickly tore off each other's clothes and rolled together. The video cut off, but their rapid breathing and the man's suppressed growls could still be heard. Julian's voice was etched into Clementine's bones, not to mention they had just been intimate. She wouldn't mistake it. Clementine finally gave up completely. She closed her eyes, tears sliding down silently. She picked up her phone and sent a message. Dr. Johnson, I agree to go abroad for the study tour with you. Julian Harrison had betrayed their vows. She, Clementine Miller, didn't want him anymore. Julian didn't return all night. Early the next morning, Clementine received a call from her mentor, Dr. Henry Johnson. He was very excited. Clem, are you really willing to come on the study tour with me? Our first stop is to operate with Doctors Without Borders. It's very dangerous, and we might be out of contact with the domestic side for a long time, Clementine said softly, but firmly. Yes, I've decided. Seeing her attitude so resolute, Dr. Johnson hesitated instead. You refused before, didn't you say you were getting married to your boyfriend? Why now? Clementine said. I'm preparing to break up. Dr. Johnson immediately understood that something must have happened in his student's relationship. He sighed. Have you thought it through? You won't regret it, Clementine said. I won't regret it. Dr. Johnson immediately said, then organize your personal credentials and bring them over in the next 2 days. I'll submit them together for the paperwork. We leave in a month. After hanging up the phone, Clementine received a message from Julian. Clemmy, something urgent came up at the company. I'm on a business trip. I'll contact you when I'm back in South City. Be good and wait for me at home. Clementine looked at that message, smiled bitterly, put away her phone, and began organizing her personal documents. Her home was in a remote mountain area. The village had only a dozen households, and her grandmother was the only healer in the village. She had been learning herbal rhymes and traditional medicine with her grandmother since she was 3. After she found Julian, he was blind. Clementine swore to cure his eyes and unhesitatingly enrolled in the traditional medicine program at the medical university. Julian was truly good to her back then. He used all the Harrison family's connections to find ancient medical texts for her and found the country's top medical expert to take her as a student. Clementine was talented to begin with, so her medical skills naturally improved by leaps and bounds. After she cured Julian's eyes, she was favored by the renowned Dr. Henry Johnson, who took her as his final disciple. 6 months ago, Dr. Johnson planned to take 3 students abroad for a study tour to exchange medical techniques and see more difficult cases and treat more patients worldwide. The first stop was the Doctors Without Borders organization. By then, Julian would never find her again. After packing her documents, Clementine received another video from the strange number. She clicked it open. Serena Sullivan leaned weakly in Julian's arms, her face pale. She said delicately, Jules, I only want to be your wife for 1 month. After I die in a month, you will still belong to Miss Miller. This is my only wish before I die. Promise me, okay? Julian lowered his eyes, looking at her with pity. Renaa, I promise you. Serena's eyes burst with surprised light. Thank you, Jules, I knew you would promise. Someone whispered in the background, Big J, if you register a marriage with Serena Sullivan, what if Clementine finds out? Julian said, she won't know. After Renaa leaves, I will return to her side and continue to be the Julian Harrison who loves Clementine Miller wholeheartedly. The video ended, and the strange number sent a photo. Julian and Serena's marriage license. A bright red color, like the color flowing from Clementine's heart. She closed her eyes briefly. When she graduated from university, she had impulsively proposed to Julian, but he didn't agree. He said he should be the one to do it. The proposal, the wedding, the marriage license, he wanted to treat every date solemnly, finding a master to calculate the most auspicious days. It turned out it was just the wrong person. With Serena, he could get the license immediately. On the 3rd day, Clementine resigned from the hospital and handed her documents to her teacher to process the exit procedures. Just as she got home, she received another video from the strange number. Serena was hugging Julian. Give me a child, okay? I'll take it with me when I leave in a month, so neither of us will be lonely. Julian said lovingly, okay. After turning off the video, Clementine was silent for a long time before laughing at herself. She got up, gathered all the couple items belonging to her and Julian, packed them up, and threw them into the trash can downstairs. Julian's voice suddenly appeared. "Clem, what are you doing?" He stood beside Clementine. She didn't look back, just said softly, "Packing up some old things to throw away." After going upstairs, Julian immediately noticed that many things were missing from the house. Even their couple toothbrushes were gone. Julian pressed, "Didn't you just buy our electric toothbrushes? Why throw them away?" Clementine paused. "That brand had a scandal exposed. I don't want to use it anymore." Julian smiled helplessly, raising his hand to touch her hair as usual. "You're still so serious about these things." Clementine avoided his hand, looking into his eyes. "Julian, I can't tolerate a single grain of sand in my eye." Julian didn't catch the hidden meaning in her words and reached out to pull her into his arms. Okay, my Clem is the most righteous girl." Clementine thought of the scenes in the video where he and Serena were rolling together and suddenly felt a wave of nausea. She abruptly pushed him away, turning her head to cover her mouth and dry retch a few times. Julian's expression changed. "Clem, are you pregnant?" Clementine looked up. "What if I said yes?" Julian said without hesitation, "Abort it. We aren't suited to have children right now." Yet he agreed to let Serena, whom he thought had cancer, get pregnant. Was there anyone less suited to pregnancy than a cancer patient? Clementine smiled self-mockingly. "I was joking. I just haven't eaten well these past 2 days, so my stomach is a bit upset." Julian breathed a sigh of relief and immediately looked at her with heartache. "Why is your stomach upset again?" "Clem, you aren't good when I'm not home, are you? Next time I travel, I'll shrink you and put you in my pocket." He thoughtfully went to find stomach medicine for Clementine and poured warm water to feed to her lips. He also cooked dinner personally. It was all dishes Clementine loved. If she hadn't heard it with her own ears and seen it with her own eyes, Clementine would never have imagined that this man had actually registered a marriage with another woman and was preparing to have a child with her. Lying together at night, Julian placed a hand on Clementine's waist, leaning in to take off her pajamas. In that instant, the hair on Clementine's body stood up. Without thinking, she dodged to the edge of the bed. "I don't feel well. I don't want to." Julian extended his long arm, pulling her into his arms. All right, it's hubby's fault. I won't touch you. Rest well." Clementine buried her face in his chest, revealing a mocking smile. Whose husband was he? She closed her eyes and pretended to sleep. Soon, she sensed Julian picking up his phone. Clemmy?" She didn't respond. He got out of bed, and soon Clementine heard the door lock. Her phone vibrated again. Where Julian went was self-evident. Clementine lay on the bed with her eyes closed, unknowingly covered in tears. She didn't know how she fell asleep. Early the next morning, she opened her tired eyes. She saw that besides the photos of Julian and Serena meeting late at night sent by the strange number, there was also a message from Julian. "Clem, today is your grandma's death anniversary. I finished my work at the company overnight. I'll come home at 9 to pick you up to go to the cemetery to pay respects to Grandma. Wait for me." The two messages placed together were exceptionally ironic. Clementine silently got up and boiled an egg, rolling it around her eyes to reduce the swelling. At 9 in the morning, Julian called. "Clem, I'm waiting for you at the elevator entrance in the underground garage. You can come down." Clementine took the offerings she had prepared long ago and got into his car. Grandma passed away when Clementine was a sophomore. Clementine had intended to bury her in their hometown. It was Julian who bought a plot in the most expensive cemetery in South City. He said that in the future, she would live with him in South City, and Grandma would be too lonely staying in the old home alone. Persuaded by him, Clementine buried Grandma in the South City cemetery. But now she was leaving and would never return. Grandma would ultimately be buried alone in South City after all. She shouldn't have trusted Julian's promises back then. Sitting in the car, Clementine's tears flowed harder and harder. Julian was distressed. He pulled the car over, hugging her and coaxing, "Clem, baby, don't cry. Grandma won't be at peace in heaven knowing you're like this." But at this moment, leaning in Julian's arms, Clementine could only think of his betrayal. He had already obtained a marriage license with another woman and even promised to let her carry his child. And now, He was still pretending to be deeply in love in front of her. Clementine closed her eyes forcefully, withdrew from his embrace, and said with a hoarse voice, "You're right. I can't make Grandma sad. Let's go." Julian looked at her worriedly. "Clem, did something else happen? Grandma has been gone for a long time. Why are you so sad?" Clementine shook her head. "No, I just suddenly miss Grandma very much." Julian asked a few more times but got nothing out of her, so he continued driving with heavy worry. "Clem, don't cry anymore, or when I see Grandma, I'll complain to her. I'll tell her you weren't good, your stomach hurt yesterday, and today you cried like this for her." Clementine lowered her eyes and didn't speak. After arriving at the cemetery, she got out carrying 2 bags of offerings. Julian wanted to take them, but she turned sideways to avoid him. "I want to give them to Grandma personally." The two walked up the steps. Clementine looked at Grandma's familiar smile on the tombstone, feeling a deep reluctance. She knelt to burn paper money and bowed her head. Julian also knelt beside her and bowed. "Grandma, please rest assured. I will take good care of Clem and be her support for a lifetime." Clementine didn't understand why this person dared to say such things in front of her grandmother's tombstone even now. She took a pair of red lover's knots out of the bag and raised her hand to throw them into the fire. Julian grabbed her hand. "Clem, aren't these the lover's knots you wove for the 2 of us?" Clementine nodded. "I'm burning them for Grandma so she can be happy for us too." Julian frowned. "But you said we were going to exchange these at our wedding." "I'll weave 2 new ones." Julian had to let go, watching Clementine throw the lover's knots she had spent a whole year meticulously weaving into the fire, instantly swallowed by the flames. An inexplicable panic rose in his heart. "Clem, are you?" But before he could finish, a surprised voice suddenly came from the quiet and solemn cemetery. "Jules!" Julian and Clementine turned their heads to see Serena standing not far away. She had black hair and white clothes, looking exceptionally frail. Julian frowned and walked over. "Why did you come here?" Clementine ignored their existence. She took out a bamboo woven cottage she had specially prepared today from the bag. She silently said to Grandma in her heart, "Grandma, I'm leaving soon. Today I'm burning the house from our hometown for you as a memento." Just as she raised her hand to throw the small house into the fire, someone suddenly snatched the house from her hand. Clementine turned her head. Serena held the small house, tears falling pitter-patter. "Miss Miller, this small house looks just like my grandparents' home from when I was little. Can you give it to me so I can burn it for them?" Clementine refused without thinking. "No, I wove this personally for my grandmother. Please return it to me." She held out her hand. Serena, however, was unwilling to return it. She turned to look at Julian pleadingly. "Jules, you know my grandparents always missed their hometown when they passed. This house really looks like their home. Can you ask Miss Miller to give it to me, please?" Julian hesitated for only a moment before saying to Clementine, "Clem, give this to her. You can weave a new one for Grandma, okay." Clementine instantly felt cold all over, as if falling into an ice cave. When she first learned, her fingers were cut all over by the bamboo strips. Julian was heartbroken then, saying her hands were meant for saving lives and shouldn't do this. After failing to stop her, he made her promise to weave only one and never touch bamboo weaving again. But now, he asked her to give this bamboo cottage, stained with her blood, to Serena Sullivan and weave another one. Clementine lowered her head. "This is for my grandmother." Julian walked over, bent down, and whispered in her ear unbearably, "She has cancer and doesn't have much time left. Clem, yield to her, okay?" Clementine said. "What if I say no?" Julian fell silent. The air froze. Serena clutched her chest and cried out with a sob, "Jules." Julian said without thinking, "I agree. Renaa, take it." Serena broke into a smile through her tears, turned, and strode to her grandparents' tombstone, quickly lighting the bamboo house on fire. Clementine looked at Grandma's smile on the tombstone, forced the corners of her mouth up with difficulty, and her eyes reddened. Julian said something on the side, but she didn't hear a word. She just thought about how she had found someone to teach her bamboo, weaving for so long, drawing drafts bit by bit, failing time and time again. Spending so much effort, she finally prepared this memento for Grandma, and it was given away so lightly by Julian to Serena. At this point, was there anything he wouldn't decide to give to Serena on her behalf? "Grandma, both you and I judged him wrong. But fortunately, it's not too late. I, Clementine Miller, do not want this man anymore." After finishing her silent conversation with Grandma, Clementine rose like a wandering spirit and walked back. Julian stayed behind, waiting for the fire in front of the tombstone to completely extinguish before turning to chase after her. Clementine had already reached the steps. As she turned to go down, Serena, standing to the side, screamed and tumbled down the stairs. Renat Julian moved with lightning speed, knocking Clementine over without even noticing. He rushed frantically to Serena, who was curled up in a ball. "How are you? Did you break any bones? I'll take you to the hospital." He scooped Serena up in his arms and left without looking back. Clementine was knocked to the ground by Julian. Her right arm slammed heavily against the hard stone steps, gouging a deep wound that instantly bled onto the ground. She sucked in a cold breath, her body trembling with pain. Clementine stumbled to her feet and endured the pain to walk to the cemetery entrance. Julian's car had already driven away. The cemetery staff was startled to see Clementine's bloodied hands. They quickly called a taxi for her, watched her get in, and instructed the driver to take her to the hospital immediately. Clementine smiled bitterly. Strangers could care for her like this, but Julian? At the hospital, while cleaning and stitching the wound, Clementine was sweating from the pain but didn't make a sound from start to finish. The doctor couldn't help but exclaim, "Aren't you afraid of pain? It's rare to see such a tough girl." Clementine looked out the window. After Grandma passed, she thought Julian would be her support, but now she had expelled Julian from her life. She was alone in this world. Who would she show weakness to? She could only be strong. When Clementine was paying the fees to leave, she ran into Julian, who was half carrying Serena looking for her. He walked up to Clementine, his face dark as water. "Clem, I already told you Renat has cancer and doesn't have much time. Why did you bump into her? Do you know this could kill her?" Clementine looked at the man she once thought she would spend her life with, her heart filled with sorrow. "I bumped into her? You believe her just because she said so? What if I said I didn't?" Julian looked disappointed. "Clem, I decided to give her the bamboo cottage. You can be angry at me, but why take it out on a sick person? Where is your kindness? Your compassion?" He had already sentenced her and wouldn't accept any defense. Clementine's heart turned to ash instantly. She turned her head away and said indifferently, "My kindness and compassion won't be used on someone faking illness for emotional blackmail." Serena sobbed and buried her face in Julian's chest. Julian frowned at Clementine. "Renat isn't faking it." Clementine didn't want to make him believe anymore. She said calmly, "If you say she isn't, then she isn't. You." Before Julian could finish, a voice suddenly came from the side. "Clem?" Clementine turned and saw the white-haired Dr. Henry Johnson standing among several doctors in white coats. A hint of joy appeared on her face. "Teacher, why are you here?" Dr. Johnson walked over. "A patient with a rare disease was admitted here today, and I was invited for a consultation." "Clem, why are you here? Didn't you already resig?" Clementine quickly interrupted him. "I accidentally hurt my hand and came to get it bandaged." Julian also walked to Clementine's side and said respectfully to Dr. Johnson, "Dr. Johnson?" He suddenly supported Serena out from his arms and said with a hint of urgency, "The doctor said she only has 1 month left. Dr. Johnson, your diagnostic skills are world famous. Can you save her?" Going through normal channels, very few people were qualified to be seen by Dr. Johnson. The people beside Dr. Johnson frowned and prepared to stop him, but he raised his hand slightly. Then he glanced at his little apprentice Clementine, observed Serena's complexion intently for a moment, and reached out to check her pulse and vitals. A moment later, he frowned slightly. "Absurd. Who diagnosed that this girl has only 1 month? Check a few more hospitals." Serena groaned painfully and turned her head to spit out a mouthful of blood. Julian said without thinking, "Dr. Johnson, even if Miss Miller is your final disciple, you can't lie for her sake, right?" The sliver of hope that had just risen in Clementine's heart was completely extinguished. She stepped forward quickly, staring dead at Julian. "Julian Harrison, you dare question my teacher's medical ethics." Julian paused, then immediately said, "I misspoke. I meant that a physical check might not be as accurate as instrument examinations." Clementine didn't want to see this man anymore. She turned and pleaded with Dr. Johnson, "Teacher, let's go." Dr. Johnson nodded with a dark face. The surrounding people immediately followed his steps, and soon they entered the elevator together. Julian reached out but failed to grab Clementine. He turned to check Serena's condition and immediately picked her up to rush to the ward. Dr. Johnson looked at his little apprentice and sighed. "No wonder you said you wanted to break up." Clementine remained silent and didn't speak. The old man patted her shoulder. "Aside from death, everything else is trivial." Clementine nodded. Indeed, that night when she heard Julian leave and saw the video, she thought her heart would ache to death. But no matter how sad or miserable, she survived it. After hurting a few more times, she got used to it. Not long after Clementine left the hospital, Julian called. If she didn't answer, he kept calling. Clementine smiled ironically. Julian seemed to have finally realized the fact that she wouldn't answer his calls. He switched to messaging her. "Clem, I didn't mean to question your teacher. I was just too anxious today and spoke without thinking. I apologize to Dr. Johnson and to you. Please explain to your teacher for me, okay?" Clementine didn't reply. Julian sent another message. "I personally took Renat to check. She really doesn't have much time. Clem, don't be jealous of a girl whose life is counting down, okay? After sending her off, the rest of my life is yours. I've already arranged with my parents to take you to meet them in a month. After meeting the parents, we'll set the wedding date, hold the wedding, and be together forever, never separating, okay?" Clementine put away her phone and answered silently in her heart. "No, Julian, we have no future. In my future life, there is no you." That night, she saw Serena update her Instagram with a 9-photo grid. Julian bending down to put on her slippers, Julian putting a hat and scarf on her, Julian feeding her food and soup. The last photo was the two of them snuggling together. The scene was warm. Clementine thought for a moment and liked the post. The next day, Clementine bought a flight ticket back to her hometown. After several transfers, she got off at the town just as it was getting dark. She chartered a car into the mountains. Years ago, after Julian took Clementine out of the mountains, he donated money to build a concrete road to her hometown, leading straight to her door. Clementine spent several days cleaning up the abandoned house. The few households in the village also discovered she was back and ran over to greet her warmly, including a few children from the village. Clementine's hometown was very poor. Besides being remote, it was because there were no resources here. Even with the road to the outside world, it was still poor. Clementine looked at the little girl with chapped skin and decided to do something for her hometown before leaving. She contacted people to donate, but there were no charity organizations here at all. She could only find a way to contact charity organizations herself, repeatedly mentioning her hometown, Tonghua Village. When Julian learned that Clementine was trying to fund the education of girls in her hometown, he messaged immediately. "Clem, do you need my help? Can I come find you?" Clementine looked silently at the 9-photo grid Serena posted on her social feed. Julian personally decorating their wedding room. Wedding photos, double happiness characters, the luxury flat decorated with lights and colors, anyone could see it was a wealthy, loving couple getting married. She didn't feel sad anymore. She calmly liked the post, put away her phone, didn't reply to Julian, and focused on doing the task at hand. After struggling for many days, processing paperwork and signing agreements, it was finally settled that the funds Clementine donated for poor mountain girls' education would cover the children of Tonghua Village. That day, Clementine received another message from Julian. "Clem, when are you coming back? We've never been apart for so long, I miss you. I prepared a surprise for you, I guarantee you'll like it. Come back soon." At this time, there were only 3 days left until Clementine went abroad with her teacher. She still didn't reply to Julian's message, simply buying a ticket back to South City for the next afternoon. She had already agreed to meet a friend before leaving. That night, she received a message from the strange number again. "Clementine Miller, you are so cheap. Julian Harrison is already married, and you're still playing tricks to make him think of you. You like being a homewrecker, right? Don't regret it." Clementine didn't take it to heart. But early the next morning, she received a call from her friend. "Clementine, Julian Harrison wants to move your grandmother's grave for Serena Sullivan." A loud buzz exploded in Clementine's brain, leaving her mind blank. After a good while, she tried to make a call with trembling hands, but opening her contacts, she didn't know who to call. Julian? This man was no longer worthy of her trust. With no direct flight to South City, she took a rideshare, transferred to a high-speed train, and rushed to South City at maximum speed, arriving at 5 p.m. The weather was gloomy, like some ominous omen. Clementine ignored everything and went straight to Grandma's grave in the cemetery. When she arrived, Serena was bending over to take the urn out from behind Grandma's tombstone. Clementine's mind went blank and she screamed, "Don't touch my grandma." She rushed over at top speed. Serena turned her head, a strange smile on the corner of her mouth. Just a second before Clementine's hand could touch the urn, Serena simply let go. The urn hit the ground with a crash, shattering into pieces. Clementine threw herself on the ground, desperately reaching out to scoop up the ashes on the ground. But gusts of gloomy wind blew past, and the powder was blown away bit by bit from between her arms. "Grandma, Grandma," Clementine cried, her voice hoarse. It was all her fault. She was blind to love the wrong person. Why punish her grandmother like this? She would rather it be her, who died, rather it be her ashes scattered. Why did she meet Julian Harrison? Why did she follow him to South City? Clementine crawled up, losing her reason, her eyes red as she lunged at Serena Sullivan. "Serena Sullivan, give me back my grandma." Serena screamed and fell to the ground, yet a mocking smile still lingered on her lips. Before Clementine could touch Serena, her wrist was grabbed by someone. That slap ultimately failed to land on Serena's face. Serena's tears fell. "Jules, I was personally removing the deceased's ashes according to the master's instructions. Miss Miller suddenly popped up and scared me. I didn't mean to break the urn. I'm sorry." Julian said without thinking, "Renaa, I don't blame you." In that instant, Clementine's heart turned to dead ash. Even that soul-tearing pain disappeared in an instant. She turned her head, looking at the man she once loved deeply with extinguished eyes. "Let go," Julian said, suppressing his anger. "Clem, Renaa didn't do it on purpose." Clementine felt this man was absolutely disgusting and didn't want even a shred of physical contact with him. She used all her strength, feeling like her bones were about to break, but still couldn't break free from his hand. She simply turned her head and bit down hard on Julian's arm. He didn't struggle, only looking more angry. "Clem, I know you're sad, but Renaa didn't mean to, and she already apologized. What more do you want?" Clementine bit down even harder. Unknowingly, the tears she thought had dried up surged out again. Julian looked concernedly at Serena on the ground and persuaded Clementine, "I've already chosen a new geomantic treasure site for Grandma. Clem, stop making a scene. Let's gather the remaining ashes together, choose an auspicious day, and rebury her properly." Clementine stared at him dead on for a few seconds, then suddenly let go, took a big step back, and turned to gather Grandma's remaining ashes. Julian moved to help, but she shoved him away. "I don't need you in this life and the next." She never wanted to see Julian Harrison ever again. Julian frowned. "Clem, you?" Beside them, Serena suddenly turned her head and spat out a trace of blood, saying fearfully, "Jules, am I going to die soon?" Julian immediately dropped a sentence. "Clem, I'll take her to the hospital and come back to find you." He ran over, picked up Serena, and quickly left the cemetery. Clementine ignored them. She gathered the remaining ashes alone and even took the tombstone. She took Grandma's ashes back to her hometown overnight to bury them. She knelt before Grandma's grave, her eyes red and swollen. "Grandma, rest assured. I will forget Julian Harrison and live every day well from now on." She kowtowed forcefully 3 times, then got up and set off for South City. She went directly to her teacher's residence, waited for him to come downstairs, and took a car to the airport together. Her phone buzzed. Clementine looked down. It was a message from Julian. "Clem, I can come home tonight. What happened recently was my fault, but there were reasons. I'll explain it to you face to face tonight. I promise you I will change and it will never happen again. I prepared a surprise for you. You will be very happy when you see it. Wait for me at home, okay?" Dr. Johnson asked. "Clem, who messaged you?" Clementine smiled faintly. "A scam message." She blocked and deleted all of Julian's contact information and turned off her phone. Supporting her teacher out of the car, she headed straight for the airport security checkpoint without looking back. Clementine didn't reply to the message. Julian had a bad premonition in his heart. He wanted to call, but Serena started vomiting blood and calling his name again. Julian could only focus his attention on her. The doctor said it was a matter of these 2 days. Serena's condition was indeed bad. Her face was pale, she had no strength, couldn't eat anything, and vomited blood frequently. Although the Sullivan family wasn't as wealthy as the Harrison family, they were in the same social class and circle. The parents of both families had known each other for a long time. Julian and Serena grew up together, truly childhood sweethearts. They started dating in high school, and their families were happy to see it happen when they found out. It was just that in their freshman year of college, Serena insisted on asking Julian to go hiking in the wild. After the accident, she left her boyfriend, whose life or death was unknown, and went directly abroad. From then on, the attitude of the Harrison elders toward her changed. Actually, Julian thought about when he fell off the cliff to save Serena. In an instant, his survival instinct made him grab an old tree root by the cliff edge. Serena initially wanted to pull him up, but when he grabbed her hand, she couldn't support him at all. After almost being pulled down the cliff by him, her expression changed directly, she broke free from his hand and ran. So his accident was completely Serena's fault. When he just regained his memory but couldn't see, Julian also blamed Serena. But later he met Clementine. She was so good and so good to him. His memory returned, his eyes were cured, and life was happy. The resentment in his heart disappeared unknowingly. At this time, Serena came back. The Sullivan family primarily worked in real estate, and their capital had shrunk significantly in recent years, nearly bankrupt. Her situation was very bad, and she had cancer. Julian suddenly couldn't bear it. After all, knowing her for many years, he couldn't stand by and watch her die like this. She only had 1 month left, and he and Clem had a lifetime, decades of companionship ahead. Julian stopped looking at his phone and concentrated on accompanying Serena. He wanted to take her to the hospital for emergency care at any time, but Serena refused, her face pale. "I don't want to die in a cold hospital at the end. This is my last wish, Jules, promise me, okay?" This was how Serena addressed Julian when they were children. After they started dating in high school, she never called him that again. This address made Julian feel sour again. Okay. The night passed, and Serena proposed wanting to eat noodles made by him one last time. Julian had learned to cook for Clementine long ago. Making noodles wasn't hard for him. After going downstairs, Julian thought of Serena's current taste and turned back to ask her. The bedroom door wasn't closed tightly. Just as he reached out, he saw Serena sitting at the head of the bed, wolfing down a large piece of spicy beef jerky. A loud buzz exploded in Julian's brain. Hadn't she been unable to eat anything starting 2 days ago? That was why he had responded to her every request. At this moment, he finally remembered the information Clementine had shown him. He originally thought Clementine was jealous and found someone to help her send it, or it was her own alt account acting it out. Not Serena. But what was he seeing now? Julian pushed the door open abruptly. Serena hurriedly stuffed the jerky under the pillow. Her face was still pale, but the beef jerky crumbs at the corner of her mouth were so glaring. Julian stared at her, saying word by word, "Serena Sullivan." Serena's tears came instantly. "Jules, I couldn't taste anything. I wanted to try eating some spicy beef to see if it worked." She had used such excuses to fool Julian many times. Only this time, he didn't trust her easily anymore. Ignoring Serena's pitiful crying and begging, he casually rummaged through the bedside table and vanity drawers. He saw that Serena had not only hidden beef jerky, but also various imported chocolates, handmade candies. Food was everywhere. Serena panicked more and more, no longer caring about pretending to be weak and unable to walk. She followed beside Julian. "Jules, I can explain these, really listen to me." Julian suddenly took a makeup remover pad from the vanity, turned, and wiped it hard across Serena's face. He saw the pad was covered in foundation. Serena tried to dodge but was grabbed forcefully by him. She cried in pain, "Jules, let go, my shoulder is going to break, it hurts." As if he didn't hear, Julian roughly wiped her face clean, revealing a fair and rosy complexion. With this face, no one would say she was sick. Thinking of what the national hand, Dr. Henry Johnson, had said at the hospital, Julian laughed in extreme anger, nodding repeatedly. "Serena Sullivan, what scheming, what methods playing me like a fiddle all this time, are you very proud?" "Jules, I had no choice. You know my family's situation? With a shove, he threw Serena, who was still trying to defend herself, onto the floor. He picked up his phone to call Clementine. "Sorry, the subscriber you dialed is busy." After several consecutive attempts, Julian realized he was blocked. He went to message Clementine on WhatsApp, only to find his messages were blocked there too. Julian looked at the time and called the hospital where Clementine worked. "Dr. Clementine Miller, she resigned long ago." This answer made Julian instantly feel like he had fallen into an ice cave. Thinking of something, Julian rushed home like a madman. Serena tried to stop him. "Jules!" He shoved her. "Get lost!" He pushed her directly to the floor. Julian didn't look back, rushing home at top speed. The Harrison family elders didn't like Clementine, feeling she wasn't good enough for Julian. So he bought houses right outside Clementine's university and near the hospital, living with her where it was convenient for her studies and work. He only went back to the Harrison estate when necessary. After Clementine graduated and entered the hospital, they lived permanently in the luxury flat near the hospital. Julian rushed home, charging into the living room, bedroom, and finally not even sparing the bathroom. The photos of the two of them were gone, the couple items were gone. Clementine's daily necessities had been cleaned out completely as if she had never existed. Julian's heart sank all the way down. Sitting in the cold house, thinking about what he had done this past month, he suddenly raised his hand and slapped himself hard across the face. "Clem, I was wrong, I know I was wrong." He rushed downstairs again and drove to the house he and Clementine shared outside the medical university. And then he saw that Clementine had cleared everything out of there too. Julian stood blankly in the empty room, momentarily not knowing what he could do. Thinking of something, he made a few calls and confirmed that the plot he bought for Clementine's grandmother hadn't been used. He called Clementine's hometown again. After several transfers, he finally got the answer. That day, he took Serena away. Clementine took the ashes back to her hometown overnight and buried her grandmother's ashes in the village. The tombstone, too. Julian was terrified to the extreme, yet he had to think. What was Clem doing? Did she not want him anymore? No, impossible. Clem loved him very much. In this world, besides him, she had no one close. She couldn't bear to leave him. Julian told himself this over and over again, but he knew in his heart that Clementine grew up with her grandmother and was a very resilient and decisive person at her core. He took out his phone, his hands trembling, a buzzing in his brain, unable to think of who to call. Staring at his contacts for a long time, he finally called Clementine's teacher, whom she was close with. Several hours later, Julian finally got a definitive answer. Dr. Johnson took his students abroad for a study tour. Clementine was among them. After finding out Clementine's whereabouts, Julian bought a plane ticket immediately. But the moment he received the flight information on his phone, he calmed down, yet froze. He thought of the look in Clementine's eyes that day at the cemetery. And what had he done? Deceived by Serena, he unhesitatingly abandoned her, left holding Serena right in front of her. He lied to Clem for Serena time and time again, suspected her for Serena, and even publicly questioned her teacher's medical ethics. For Serena, he tried to move her grandmother's grave without greeting Clem. Julian slapped himself hard again, but after the slap, he still had to ask himself. If he went to find Clem now, what could he say after finding her? Would she forgive him? If Clem refused to forgive him? Julian was terrified at this moment. He refused to think about the possibility of Clementine never forgiving him. Instead, desperately thinking about how to win her back, how to earn her forgiveness, he made several calls, withdrawing all help to the Sullivan Family Company and canceling the supplementary bank cards given to Serena. Thinking of Serena's deception, Julian smiled coldly and contacted his lawyer, demanding the return of all expenses he spent on Serena after her return to the country. Food and drink aside, all the luxury goods he bought for Serena, the 5-star hotel presidential suites, various transfers. He wanted her to pay it all back. Their mutual friend Harry Walker, the one who called to tell Julian that Serena only had 1 month left. Hearing the news, he hurriedly found Julian. "Big J, are you crazy? How can you treat Renaa like this? She did all this because she loves you." Before he could finish, Julian punched him in the face. Harry screamed, covering his face and stumbling a few steps before falling to the ground. Julian stepped forward with a ferocious expression, punching him harder and harder. "Harry Walker, how many guts do you have to dare lie to me along with Serena Sullivan?" Harry initially wanted to say something, but later he was beat until he could only hold his head and beg for mercy desperately. Julian didn't listen to a word and didn't want to listen at all. He beat Harry until he lay on the ground, unable to speak. Only then did he stand up coldly, adjusting his clothes while calling his personal secretary. "Come over and send Harry Walker to the hospital. I'll cover all medical expenses." Before Harry was loaded into the ambulance, Julian stared at him coldly. "Tell Serena Sullivan this isn't over." On the other side, Clementine followed her teacher to join the Doctors Without Borders organization, heading straight to a war-torn country. War was raging there, and injured people were everywhere. The local hospitals were crude, and medical staff and medicine were in short supply. When their group arrived at the hospital, they encountered a series of car accidents caused by a bombing. Ambulances arrived one after another, delivering casualties needing resuscitation. There weren't enough ambulances, so locals also carried stretchers to bring the wounded to the hospital. Clementine didn't have time to think about anything before joining the rescue team. Resuscitation after resuscitation. By the time she walked out of the operating room exhausted, more than 10 hours had passed since they arrived. Her calves were trembling from fatigue, and her arms were sore and aching. Even eating was a painful task. Clementine wasn't used to the food here, but she was starving. Seeing food, she only wanted to fill her stomach and didn't care about anything else. After wolfing down the food, before she had time to think, she was called to continue treating patients, working nonstop for 3 days, either saving lives or on the way to save lives. When she finally could close her eyes to rest, she would be awakened by sudden sirens. Bombing sounds came from not far away. While protecting herself, Clementine also worried about the patients she had just saved. She didn't have a shred of mood to think about anything else. Even the original anger and sadness had all faded away. As a doctor in the midst of war, she saw patients dying from severe injuries almost every day. The biggest difference here from home was that some children also left hurriedly because of the war. They were all so small. One little girl had her arm amputated, but she was too young to understand what amputation meant. She innocently asked Clementine if she could still wear flower-woven bracelets when she was discharged. Clementine felt her heart breaking. She drew a beautiful bracelet on the little girl's gauze. The little girl was overjoyed. Clementine walked out of the ward and leaned against the wall for a long time before adjusting her mood. Dr. Johnson asked, "Clem, can you adapt to the situation here?" Clementine nodded. "I can." After witnessing too much brevity and fragility of life, Clementine felt life was even more precious. She wanted to save more people. This was the meaning of her studying medicine since childhood. Dr. Johnson nodded with gratification. The master and disciple continued to devote themselves to treatment. On the other side of the globe, Julian Harrison kept every word of the harsh threat he made to his former good brother Harry Walker. He not only beat Harry. The small company Harry started himself was also squeezed by Julian's methods until it could barely continue. Because Julian found out that Harry had been secretly helping Serena since he had a crush on her since they were teenagers. When Serena returned to the country, the Sullivan family was almost bankrupt. She had no money or connections to collude with private hospitals to fake data to deceive Julian. It was Harry who helped. And Harry and Julian had always been good buddies. He was there during the hiking trip too. When Julian fell off the cliff, Harry spent heavily to hire a search and rescue team to find him. After Julian returned, he also helped find reliable doctors to treat him. Julian never thought Harry would lie to him. Therefore, when he found out the truth, he felt betrayed again, and the raging anger could no longer be extinguished. He destroyed Harry's company and didn't spare the Walker family either. Serena's entire family was driven to a desperate situation by him. The Sullivan family went bankrupt. Serena's parents and brother had no jobs and became destitute overnight, almost becoming homeless people sleeping in underpasses. Julian declared, "Anyone who dares to help the Sullivan family is against me." Seeing him destroy the Sullivans like this, and even destroy the Walkers out of anger, the elite circle of South City naturally avoided both families like the plague. No one dared to touch them. Serena got anxious and could only contact Julian's biological mother, Rosemary Harrison. I'm pregnant, it's Julian's. Julian's parents hadn't planned to interfere in this matter. After all, the assets of the Sullivan and Walker families had been shrinking for a long time, and the Sullivans were tossing about so much they were about to fall out of the wealthy circle. But hearing that Serena was carrying the Harrison bloodline, this matter became different. When Julian sent people to trouble Serena again, he found she couldn't be found. In a rage, he swept everything off his office desk onto the floor, staring at his secretary. Who dares to help her? The secretary was silent as a cicada in winter. It's Mrs. Harrison. The Mrs. Harrison the secretary referred to could naturally only be his biological mother. Julian took out his phone and called Rosemary. Mom, Serena Sullivan played me like this. If I don't give her enough of a lesson, how will the circle view me in the future? Rosemary simply said. She's pregnant, your child. Julian instantly clenched his fist, his eyes red. Impossible, Rosemary said. Serena agreed to stay in the place I arranged for the entire pregnancy and cooperate with us for a paternity test. Julian couldn't deny it anymore. But if he didn't deny it, he could only admit that he had slept with Serena. He didn't just pity and care for Serena because she was dying. He had relations with Serena. He really betrayed Clementine. Just thinking of this drove Julian crazy with regret. When he took Clem out of her small village, his promises were sincere. He also firmly believed he would spend his life with Clem. Why did it turn out like this? Julian knew that if he corrected all mistakes in time now, used sincerity to make up for the hurt caused to Clementine, let her see his sincerity, there might be a chance she would turn back. Once Serena's child was born, he would never have a chance again. Julian stated his position to his parents. I don't want the child in Serena Sullivan's belly. I'm still young. I can have children whenever I want. But his parents were not easily fooled. You want to get Clementine Miller back, right? Do you only want the children she bears? But if it's impossible between you two, and she won't change her mind, what will you do? Will our Harrison family have no heir? Hit by the hypothesis that Clementine won't change her mind, Julian showed a painful expression. He was silent for a long time, refusing to lie again. I will find Clem, marry her, and have children. Rosemary pursued keenly. What if Clementine refuses to come back? If you really find her and she doesn't want to have children? Julian didn't answer, just repeated, I will bring her back. His parents understood his meaning, so they refused even more to let Julian abort the child in Serena's belly. You don't need to worry about it. I'll watch her give birth, give her a sum of money, and send her abroad never to return. I'll be responsible for raising the child. I won't let this child come out to hinder you and Clementine. You just go chase her back. After a long silence, Julian agreed. Rosemary and Serena, who heard Julian's default on the other end of the phone, were overjoyed in an instant. They thought they had persuaded Julian. Rosemary's approach seemed beneficial, with no harm to anyone. As long as he calmed down and thought about it, he should definitely agree with Rosemary's approach. Serena even had confidence that as long as the child was born, she still had hope of winning Julian's heart. After all, she gave birth to his own flesh and blood. He wasn't made of stone. Would he really not come to see the child? As long as he came to see the child, he would naturally see the child's mother, which was her. Over time, chatting more about their past, she wasn't afraid his attitude wouldn't soften. Dripping water wears through stone, she could always move him. Serena was full of confidence, feeling that getting pregnant with this child was the most correct decision. Rosemary also relaxed her vigilance against Julian. Therefore, Julian quickly found out the residence she arranged for Serena. Julian took people from the company straight to that high-end residential area. When Serena saw Julian, a surprised smile immediately appeared on her face. Jules, you came, the baby is very good. Julian's face was dark as he waved his hand. Take her away. Serena's face paled instantly. Jules, what are you doing? She kept backing away, turning to run, but was grabbed by the arms by the people Julian brought. She screamed, What are you doing? I'm carrying your child, Jules. I love you. I thought of you every day abroad. And I came back for you. I'm pregnant with your child. You'll be a father when the baby is born. You, Julian shouted coldly. Shut up, Serena struggled desperately. I'm the mother of your child, Jules. How can you treat me like this? I love you as loving you a mistake. Julian's face was extremely dark. You love me. Back then, you caused me to fall off a cliff and ran abroad immediately. When you ran out of money, you came back to find me, faked cancer to deceive me, causing Clem to leave me. He gritted his teeth. Serena Sullivan, I want you to pay the price for everything you've done, he said. Take her away. Serena cried and begged desperately, but Julian didn't even look at her. When they arrived at the hospital, she finally understood how much Julian hated her now, how cruel he was. As soon as she got out of the car, she tried to lie on the ground. I won't go, I want to see your parents, but Julian didn't care about her thoughts at all, just giving a light wave of his hand. No matter how Serena cried, made a scene, or struggled for help, she was eventually sent to the obstetrics department for an abortion. Rosemary arrived after the surgery ended, but everything was too late. She was so angry she couldn't help slapping Julian. I told you I'd take responsibility for this child, and I'd arrange for Serena Sullivan. How did a child get in your way? Why did you have to abort it? Julian said with a hoarse voice. If Serena is here, if this child is here, Clem will never forgive me. Rosemary cursed. I think you're crazy. Julian ignored her, just staring gloomily at Serena, who was pale after the abortion on the bed. It's not over yet. Serena curled up in terror. She finally recognized a fact. Julian would not be soft-hearted toward her again. And now her reliance was gone. What else could she do? After spending a huge amount of money and going through many twists and turns, Julian finally got a photo of Clementine. In a crude hospital, wearing a white coat, her long hair cut into a shoulder-length bob, she looked clean and efficient, her eyes clear. He looked greedily at the face he missed day and night in the photo. Since she left, he dreamed of her every night. But every time, the dream repeated that day in the cemetery, her grandmother's ashes smashed by Serena, and him choosing to stand by Serena's side. Her eyes woke Julian up time and time again, because Clementine's eyes at that time clearly showed she had completely given up on him. He woke up from nightmares, heartbroken and regretful every time. Why didn't he realize it then? If he had chosen to stand by Clem's side then, if he hadn't left but gathered Grandma's remaining ashes with her and accompanied her to rebury the old lady, perhaps she wouldn't have left so decisively. This hypothesis made Julian regret to the extreme. He hated Harry, hated Serena, but the person he hated most was himself. The more he hated himself, the more he tried to find ways to torture Harry and Serena's whole families. Even though the Walkers had nothing left, whenever Harry and his parents tried to find jobs, they were forced to quit by Julian time and again. Many mutual friends in the circle couldn't stand it anymore. Jules, Harry was also deceived by that woman. Is it necessary to treat him like this? After all, he's a brother you've known for over 10 years. Are you really going to drive their family to a dead end? Julian said coldly, deceived. What I found out was that he united with Serena Sullivan to lie to me. He sneered. Their lie said Serena had cancer and was about to die. Where is that now? Aren't they both strong and healthy, with good hands and feet? Living another few decades won't be a problem. Others wanted to persuade him more. Julian stopped them with a gesture. I made my attitude clear to all of you when I brought Clem back. Clem saved me back then. Without her, I would have died in the mountains long ago, my body likely fed to wild beasts. Now she left me because of Harry and Serena's joint deception. Be glad I haven't gone mad. The more he spoke, the scarier his tone became. I'm going to find Clem. If she doesn't come back, I'll make Serena and Harry truly understand what a living hell is. Julian's eyes remained calm from start to finish. But precisely because of his calmness, those persuading him understood his attitude even more. They all knew he meant it. For a moment, their blood ran cold. One somewhat hot-tempered person couldn't help saying, Jules, for a woman, is it worth? But Julian's gaze swept over, and he instantly fell silent, daring not speak again. Julian clenched his phone tightly, looking in the direction where Clementine was. If you want me to let Serena and Harry go, help pray that Clementine comes back. What if she really wouldn't turn back? Would Julian really go mad? This thought rose in everyone's heart, then was immediately pushed down, daring not to think further. Julian aborted the child in Serena's belly, leaving her completely without hope, only able to beg Julian for mercy. And Julian didn't feel it ended just like this. He spent a fortune to restore the 2 houses he shared with Clementine to their original state as quickly as possible. He spared no cost to retrieve the things she had disposed of and placed them in their original positions. All photos were retrieved. Finally, It was Grandma Miller's grave. Since Clementine had already moved her back to the hometown, Julian didn't dare move the old lady's grave casually again. He went there personally, hired people to renovate the old lady's grave magnificently. He also found 2 struggling families in the village, sending money every month for them to be responsible for visiting Grandma's grave every day with fresh offerings. Because he gave a lot of money, the 2 families were overjoyed and repeatedly promised to do so. Julian knelt and kowtowed in front of Grandma's tombstone to admit his mistakes, said a lot, and finally thought for a moment, taking a small glass bottle to fill with a little soil from in front of Grandma's grave, then left Clementine's hometown. On the way back to South City, he booked a flight to the country where Clementine was with excitement. Julian worked tirelessly for a day and night to handle his work, then boarded the plane. But after going through many difficulties to reach the hospital where Clementine was, she wasn't there. He was struck by lightning, shaking his head vigorously. Impossible, Clem won't die, she won't. Julian grabbed the person, his strength astonishing. Where did she go? The person said. Dr. Miller was only here for support. She isn't part of Doctors Without Borders. She left with her teacher, Dr. Johnson, saying they were going elsewhere to practice medicine. Julian breathed a sigh of relief, but also became more nervous. Do you know where they went? The person didn't know. But as long as no accident happened, as long as Clem was alive, Julian feared nothing. The moment he thought she had had an accident and died just now, he realized what true despair was, what true heartbreak was. One of Julian's hands clenched into a fist, knuckles protruding. Clem, no matter where you go, I will find you. He took a plane back to the country. A round trip, no person found, and his work piled up again. He busied himself with work while continuing to search for her. But this time, Clementine's tracks seemed particularly hard to trace. Despite spending a lot of manpower and resources, no news came back. Julian's nightmares grew longer and longer. He could hardly sleep, and he began to lose weight drastically. But he didn't care. His parents thought he was crazy. Are you going to torment yourself to death for a woman? Julian, whose facial contours became sharper after losing weight, was silent for a moment before saying, "This is what I deserve." Harry and Serena would get his punishment. What about him? Clem gave up on him and wouldn't do anything to him, but he wouldn't let himself off. They all deserved punishment. He broke Clem's heart. He should receive the heaviest punishment. Unable to find any news of Clementine, Julian thought of various ways to torture Serena. Arranging for her to do manual labor at construction sites, clean hygiene at farms, wash feet, and scrub backs at foot massage parlors, work as a service staff at the most torturous customer service windows. After a period of time, Serena no longer looked like a wealthy young lady. Before meeting Julian, she had just been splashed with hot noodle soup all over her head and face by a customer looking for trouble at the window. She simply cleaned up and was taken to see Julian. Her long hair was messy, smelling of noodle soup, terrifyingly thin, her face sallow. Seeing Julian, she first wanted to cry and beg for mercy. Serena didn't even cry like before pitiful and pear blossom rain-like. Instead, she cried heart-wrenchingly, nose running, disgusting to look at. I know I was wrong. I dare not covet you anymore, it's all my fault. You find Miss Miller, I'll go kowtow and beg for her mercy. I beg her to let me go, let me find a job myself, okay? Julian was silent for a moment, then shook his head. He said softly, I can't find her. This was tantamount to a death sentence for Serena. She immediately cried even more hoarsely, but now she didn't even have the strength or courage to fight Julian. Besides crying and begging him to let her go, there was no other way. I'll help you find her, I'll look for Clementine too, as long as you don't make me work in the foot massage parlor. I'll do anything, please. Julian looked at her for a while, then turned indifferently to leave. Fortunately, he soon received good news. Dr. Johnson was returning to the country. He was one of the world's top doctors. Naturally, he couldn't stay abroad for a long time. Julian was ecstatic when he received this news. If Dr. Johnson returned, then Clementine, who was with him, should be back too. He could finally see Clem again. Julian passed by the floor-to-ceiling window and saw his reflection. He froze, then suddenly panicked. Clem definitely wouldn't like him looking sloppy like this. He had to hurry and clean himself up to look like before. Julian got a new haircut and bought new clothes from inside out. Then he found a nutritionist, demanding to gain weight as fast as possible, at least so his cheeks weren't sunken. It was too ugly. Clem liked his old face. Julian even started using skincare products, meticulously caring for his skin morning and night. On the day Dr. Johnson returned, he ordered 99 Diana roses, Clementine's favorite, sprayed the cologne Clementine liked, held the roses, and waited at the airport exit. But when Dr. Johnson walked to the exit with his team, Julian didn't see Clementine's shadow at all. He couldn't believe it, checked again and again, but indeed didn't see her. The roses in his hand fell to the ground. As if he didn't notice, he could barely stand. He wanted to go up and ask Dr. Johnson, but thinking of their last meeting, what he said to Dr. Johnson in front of Clementine. Moreover, if Clem had already told her teacher what he did, he suddenly dared not ask. Just then, he heard someone ask, "Dr. Johnson, where is Dr. Miller?" Dr. Johnson smiled and said, "My little apprentice, she felt this trip was very rewarding and didn't want to come back yet. She wants to continue traveling the world and treating more patients." Clem didn't come back. Julian supported himself against the wall, the look on his face dim to the extreme. Although the teacher planned the study tour, he didn't dictate the itinerary or duration. When Dr. Johnson received an urgent call from home and had to return, Clementine wanted to continue. Dr. Johnson didn't stop her. Instead, he was very supportive. He always supported doctors seeing more patients to refine their medical skills. So Clementine stayed abroad with 2 other talented doctors, continuing to treat more patients and incidentally see the great world and different sceneries. Having experienced the vastness and greatness of nature, and witnessed the insignificance and preciousness of humanity, the mindset of Clementine and her colleagues became more and more peaceful. When Clementine first went abroad, even if she forced a smile occasionally, it looked as ugly as crying. Most of the time she was silent. As time passed, her past smile gradually returned to her face. She started to have the mood to watch flowers and birds, mountains and water. Every morning, she actively practiced Tai Chi and herbal exercises with her 2 senior brothers, and occasionally went to the gym to pump iron with them. Her body got better and better, her personality more cheerful. She had almost forgotten all those unhappy things back home. When her 2 senior brothers tentatively brought it up, Clementine told them without any grudge, "Just broke up with a boyfriend." At that time, it felt like the sky collapsed. Looking back now, it was really just a breakup, nothing big. It's all in the past, nothing big. It's all in the past. Clementine truly believed this, but Julian, still in South City, didn't think so. He tried every means, went through many twists and turns, and finally got Clementine's new phone number. Choosing an evening when the sunset filled the sky, he sat in the garden. After several deep breaths, he dialed Clementine's new number. After 2 rings, a voice familiar enough to be etched into his soul came from the other side. "Hello, this is Clementine Miller." Julian opened his mouth, suddenly not knowing what to say. He was silent for a moment, and Clementine on the other side guessed something. "Julian Harrison," calling him by his full name. This was a first. Julian was a bit dazed. When Clementine first met him at 17, she saved him and brought him home. He woke up without memory, so she called him brother according to local custom. After he regained his memory and told her his name, she called him Jules. After he confessed, she changed to calling him Julian, and occasionally in certain moments in bed, she would sob and call him Jules, which only excited him more. And now she called him Julian Harrison. He opened his mouth, his tone dry. "I'm sorry, Clem." Clementine's tone was calm, like treating an acquaintance. "It's okay, I forgive you. You and Serena Sullivan were a couple originally. Rekindling old flames is normal. You just should have broken up with me." Then Julian interrupted her forcefully. Clementine stopped talking. "You called just to apologize. Then I forgive you. Anything else? If not, I'm hanging up." Her attitude toward him was like treating a former classmate, a passerby brushing shoulders on the street. At this moment, Julian felt unstoppable pain, his eyes reddening. When he spoke again, he couldn't help choking up. Clementine was startled and didn't speak again. "Clem, I know I was wrong. It was Serena Sullivan faking cancer to deceive me, and it was me, I was deceiving myself, always thinking I could be distracted for a bit, and when I looked back, you would still be waiting there." Once he started, the rest came out smoothly. He spoke of his inability to sleep recently, having nightmares whenever he did, living days like years. He spoke of having punished Serena and Harry. He spoke of fixing Grandma's grave. Clementine didn't speak. After Julian waited for a long time and there was still no sound from the other side, he understood something. When he spoke again, his voice carried a sob, begging, "Clem, please, don't be so cruel to me. Give me another chance, okay? Just once, only once." Clementine was not moved at all. "But Julian, I don't love you anymore." Even knowing the answer, hearing this sentence, Julian's heart instantly fell into the abyss, smashed into powder. "Can I come find you? We can talk face to face." Clementine refused. "No need. My answer won't change anywhere." Julian said unwillingly, "What if I wait for you to return to the country and chase you again? This time I will perform well. I will let the whole South City, the whole country, the whole world know I love you. I want." Clementine said, "Sorry, Julian. I found too many meaningful things in life, and I have no plans to date for the time being. There is no need for us to contact each other anymore." After saying this, she hung up directly. Ignoring Julian still calling her name on the phone, Julian listened to the beep-beep sound in his ear. After a long silence, he finally covered his chest, unable to stop letting out a painful wail. The pain was too intense. He couldn't digest it, nor did he want to. He rushed downstairs and drove straight to the Sullivan home. They now lived in the cheapest part of the urban village. A family of 4 living in a small 2-bedroom unit. The father and brother lived in one room, the mother and Serena in the other smaller room. With no conditions for maintenance and having to do hard physical labor every day, Serena's face and hands had become incredibly rough. Seeing Julian, the fear in her eyes disappeared. "Julian Harrison, I've already rotted in the mud. What else do you want?" Julian stared at her. "This is called rotting in the mud?" Serena sensed something. "Did you find Clementine Miller? She doesn't want you." She laughed gloatingly. "Deserved," Julian said coldly. "It seems the lesson you learned isn't enough. Then choose. Go deep into the mountains to marry an old man and bear sons, or marry a 60-year-old wealthy merchant with special fetishes?" The smile on Serena's face froze. She suddenly roared in collapse. "I lied to you, but Julian, if you didn't have intentions yourself, would my tricks really have fooled you if you investigated casually? I lied about having cancer. I courted you, but I didn't drug you to make you get hard and roll with me, did I? You hypocritical, selfish, cowardly, disgusting man, you cheated and dare not admit it, trying to dump the blame on me. Today I insist on." Before she could finish, Julian roared. "Shut up," he kicked her flying. Serena hit the wall and fell heavily to the ground, unable to get up for a long time. Julian said grimly, "It seems you chose to bear sons for an old man in the mountains. Very good." He turned to leave. Serena suddenly laughed maniacally, grabbed a steel pipe from the side, and rushed toward Julian's back regardless of everything. The steel pipe was raised high and smashed down heavily. With a bang, Julian fell in response, his head bleeding. Serena also slumped to the side. Screams came from the surroundings. Soon, the sound of police sirens rang out. Serena was imprisoned for malicious injury, and Julian suffered damage to his cranial nerves and went blind. Fate seemed to play a joke on everyone. After going around in circles, in the end, he was blind again, with nothing. Just like returning to before meeting Clementine. The Harrison family wouldn't want a blind heir. Julian's father quickly began selecting a new successor for the Harrison group from the side branches and professional managers. And Julian chose to return to Clementine's hometown, living in that small house they had shared, guarding Grandma Miller's grave, never leaving again. In this old house, there were the best memories of him, Clementine, and Grandma, a family of 3. Julian lived surprisingly peacefully here, having no more nightmares. He always felt that one day he could wait until Clementine returned. Clementine remained abroad, saving more patients and treating many difficult diseases. Her fame grew larger and larger, spreading back to the country, drawing admiration from countless people. Dr. Johnson also repeatedly praised his little apprentice in public. Years later, in the summer when Clementine returned to the country, she landed at South City Airport. Countless people went to pick her up and welcome her back. Clementine revealed a brilliant smile to the crowd. At the exact same time in the hometown, Julian accidentally fell off the cliff because he couldn't see, falling to his death on the spot. No one knew.